The pain in John Kemp Jr.'s back and legs started when he was just 4 years old.
But he never got better. He kept getting gradually worse.
Half days at school, Halloweens in a wheelchair.
The hardest thing about it is just the pain.
And no sports like the other kids, intense pain every day.
I used to be able to want to do football, but I couldn't because I might get hit in the back.
Plus, no answers, despite doctor's visits, MRIs, and other tests.
It was frustrating, and I didn't understand why I was going to the doctors, but nobody ever gave me an answer.
The Kemps live in West Palm Beach, Florida. John's father is a firefighter. It might have been easier if they knew what was wrong with John Jr., who is now 10. Instead, nothing but frustration for more than 6 years.
If I could even tell you the hours that I would just read and I would research and the phone calls and just, I mean, I can't even tell you. My husband would find me at night, in the corner on my phone, just reading, putting in the symptoms and what could this be.
You got to be the rock. Long showers, long car rides, and come back. Because she was crying 3 or 4 times a day. And he was in pain all the time.
The boys' medical records take up an entire kitchen table. Finally, their pediatrician had seen enough. He asked the family to gather up all the boys' MRIs and tests and send them out to any hospital that would take a look.
Everybody knew there was something, but nobody knew what it was.
They visited hospitals all over Florida, even one as far away as Boston. Back home in West Palm Beach, the phone rang.
So we ended up back home, and about a month later, I was at work again. And my wife got a call and goes, "You're never going to believe it, Johns Hopkins called us."
One of the doctors from Hopkins had seen a French medical journal from the 1970s that described a similar condition to John Jr.'s, an extra blood vessel that had formed between his kidney and his spine.
It was basically vessels in his spine that was putting extra blood and putting too much pressure on his spinal cord.
It had been on the MRIs for all those years, but other doctors dismissed it as something like static.
He says, "I found it. It's never been done this way. Would you please let me try and correct this?"
So the family took a trip to Baltimore, and John Jr. had a surgery called an embolization. Doctors inserted titanium coils into the extra vein, essentially choking it off.
Up until this last year, he couldn't be on his feet more than 30 minutes or he'd be in a wheelchair.
Now he can be out and about for hours, walking, running, and playing on what he calls his new legs.
Problem with John, of course, was a very unusual problem. So, it's not surprising that it took a long time to figure out what was going on there.
Doctors at Hopkins say the key to helping patients like John is the hospital's collaborative atmosphere.
One of the things at Hopkins is we have a lot of people who are very subspecialized in particular areas. So they have a lot of knowledge about something, and being able to sort of go to them and bring them in on cases and things like that is a huge help.
John Jr. has new medical issues that have come up since the surgery, including problems with his thyroid gland.
I would love to say we're done and we're complete and that's it. But honestly, I don't know that that's the case. I can only hope that that's what happens.
But it still could be a medical miracle. And if it is, it's one the family has worked toward for more than 6 years.
I really, really want people to know that if you don't give up, you will find your answers.